A very, very important and interesting clarification came from the floor of the House from the Law Minister, Mr. Meghwal, who clarified that it is not the 2011 census that will be used as a reference to determine how seats should be increased in the Lok Sabha. Instead, he said a simple formula of a 50% flat increase in the seats of all states would be followed so that no part of the country could claim that they were being underrepresented. Will this make the opposition change its mind? That's the big question before us. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, the Prime Minister has spoken in the debate around both the women's reservation legislation that is before a special session of Parliament to be operationalized and the debate around delimitation. Prime Minister Modi said he is seeking no personal credit for himself or for the BJP, but that the women of India would not forgive the political class if this time too the women's legislation bill failed to become reality. On paper, of course, women's quota, 33% for women, was unanimously or near unanimously approved in 2023. The holdup was how to increase the strength of the Lok Sabha because nobody is giving up 33% of the existing 543 seats clearly. Then there was the limitation of the fact that in 2026, there could be no delimitation or redrawing of India's parliamentary constituencies. It is this clause that the current bills seek to change, basically talking about an immediate increase by 50% to the strength of the Lok Sabha so that it goes from 543 to 815 and a flat parallel increase of 50% to the seats of every state. So just to give you an example, if Uttar Pradesh, if this bill were to pass, Uttar Pradesh would go up from 80 to 120 seats and Tamil Nadu would go up to a strength of 59 seats. Will this change the response of the opposition, who thus far has been citing a reference to the census in the written copy of the bill and saying that the 2011 census, which is the last published census, would totally skew politics in the favor of the North and away from the South? But this important clarification coming from the Law Minister on the floor of the House in a debate where the Prime Minister has spoken, voting will take place on Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. Does the center's clarification change the game? Remember, I like to remind our audience that the Women's Reservation Bill is as old as my life in media, 30 years. 30 years later, will it keep its date with history or will delimitation debate dwarf it? Let me introduce our panel of experts on the program today. Joining us is Vinita Hariharan, who is, of course, an advisor to the government. I welcome you, ma'am, to the program. I also want to welcome Yashwant Deshmukh of Sea Voter. He predicted yesterday on this program that the government might even be contemplating a midterm poll. I don't know about that. Yashwant is usually right, but even if he's not right about this, what is clear is that Modi is preparing for 2029 and 2026. That much at least is sure. I also want to welcome to the program Shugata Srinivas Raju, senior journalist and author. Also joining me is Congress supporter and political analyst Tehseen Poonawala. Tehseen, good to see you after ages. And also joining me is senior journalist Aarti Jairat. I want to welcome Aarti, also seeing you after ages. Aarti, welcome everybody. I think before I even get to the Prime Minister, it's really important that we start with a critical piece of news. We have all been assuming since yesterday that the 2011 census is going to be the basis for which or how these seats will be increased in the Lok Sabha. But Law Minister Arjun Meghwal has clarified that this is not going to be the case. And in fact, the model that's going to be followed is a flat 50% increase in the seats of all states. This is very important and it changes actually the debate. Let's listen to Mr. Meghwal and then come right back to our panel.
महिलाओं की भागीदारी सुनिश्चित करेगा। पूरे देश में एक समान और न्याय संगत तरीके से महिलाओं के लिए 1/3 सीटों के रिजर्वेशन को प्रभावी बनाने के लिए ये आवश्यक होगा कि लोकसभा में वर्तमान सीटों के अतिरिक्त कुल सीटों की संख्या में समान रूप से 50% की वृद्धि की जाए। लोकसभा की वर्तमान सीटों में 50% की वृद्धि की जाती है तो सदन की नई स्ट्रेंथ 815 सदस्यों की होगी। इसमें से 272 सीटें महिलाओं के लिए आरक्षित होगी, जो कुल 815 सीटों का 1/3 है। तो ये सिंपल सा एक फॉर्मूला है और इसमें सबको कोई नुकसान नहीं हो रहा है, किसी भी पुरुष वर्ग को भी नुकसान नहीं हो रहा है और किसी राज्य को कोई नुकसान नहीं हो रहा है। जो ताकत इस राज्य की है उतनी ही ताकत आने वाले समय में रहेगी।
So the law minister there addressing the criticism of many of the opposition leaders from the southern states who are talking about a diminished political value for them if this bill were to go through in its current form. I just want to explain what this means very simply for anybody who's a layperson like me, who's not accustomed to studying numbers. What does it mean? It simply means that the government has proposed adding 50% more seats to the Lok Sabha, which takes the strength of the Lok Sabha to 850. Now, how do you get there? There were two ways to get there. Either by the 2011 census, which is the last published census, and that's the bill, by the way, the written text of the bill makes a reference to the last published census. But the law minister is clarifying that they're not going to do that. They're going to follow a simple flat model of adding 50% seats to all of the states. So let's, can we go to those graphics? Actually, we need to stay on those, please. If we can go back to those graphics, what does it actually mean? What it means is, let's say Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh will go up to 120, but Kerala will go to 30, and Tamil Nadu will go to 59, and Bihar will go to 60, Bengal will go to 63, and so on and so forth. So basically a flat 50%. Somewhere I think the government has not emphasized maybe how it plans to bring this model into the text of the bill, but this is certainly what Mr. Meghwal has said from the floor of the House. Yashwant, you're the numbers person. I'm hoping you can hear me. Does this completely change the debate around the bill? Yashwant? Okay, I don't think Yashwant can hear me. Vinita, bring me in, please. Vinita, let's bring you in. Vinita, how do you respond to this clarification? And if you can also explain how this might change the debate.
Yes, so the law ministers made it easy for everybody to, agree with the new formula, and it becomes very impartial on the face of it. And it is actually, because even yesterday, even if it was back to 2011, the emphasis was on increasing the seats in every state by 50%. So that was always there. But it was, the proportional share which the states were contending on, that, 1-2-3% less than what they already have, and all of that. So that controversy is now going to be erased. And so it's going to be a flat 50% increase, a very simple arithmetic, which everybody, you and I, can understand. And it doesn't need any great economists to decipher the formula. So therefore, there's no contention here. And I'm sure with this kind of structure and with this kind of, formula, all states will have to agree, because there is no contention here, and it's the proportion would remain as it is in the current 543 member parliament.
Tehseen, I'm hoping you can hear me and that you heard what I said about Mr. Meghwal's clarification. Go ahead and respond. Vinita Hariharan argues this should change the debate entirely, make it very accessible for everybody to follow, diminish the fears of the southern states that they are going to be underrepresented. I, of course, would argue, and I want to just make this point before we start the debate, that actually true women's reservation would have meant 33% of the existing 543 seats. Why are we increasing the size of the House at all? But I was told that is a pipe dream, that I was not acknowledging the patriarchy that is embedded deeply in our political system, and therefore women should take what they get. And if this is the way they're getting it, and if there's a 50% flat model where all states basically you're adding 50% to their seats in the Lok Sabha, nobody should be worried anymore about their political value being unfairly underrepresented. Tehseen?
Barkha, thank you so much for having me on the show. I hope I'm clear. There was some audio problem earlier.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Perfect. First of all, I read this bill in totality. Where does it say that Article 81(2)A is being amended? That's point number one. And if it is not being amended, where do these stories of 50% come? Barkha, I'm sure you've read the bill. I'm sure Aarti.
No, it's not in the bill. It's not in the bill. It's not in the bill. I opened by saying it's not in the bill. It's a statement made by Arjun Meghwal on the floor of the House. It's not in the bill. I'm saying that. I said that in my opening.
Sorry, because I had an audio problem. What value does that
Yeah.
make? A statement made by a minister. It makes no value. I mean, you're pregnant or not pregnant. It's a constitutional amendment. Are these guys joking with us? They got in a constitutional amendment in 2023. We kept telling them exactly what you said right now. Do 33% of 543. Then they said you can't do it, we'll do it in 2034. Now they brought in a constitutional amendment to amend the constitution they amended in 2023, and they don't have it on paper. Arjun Megwal makes a statement. What value is that statement, Barkha? You, Aarti, have covered parliament more than any of us here. Does it have any value? It doesn't. Now let's come to the second part. Let's hypothetically say 50% is being increased. This 50% is still unfair for southern states and for versus the northern states. I'll explain to you why. Barkha, you run a very successful company. Parliament, like business, runs on real money and real numbers, not percentages. So if you were to increase cost of your company by giving all your employees a 50% bonus, an employee who's getting 1,000 rupees, the cost to the company would be 500, versus an employee who's getting 1 lakh rupees, the cost to the company would be 50,000. These are real numbers. Similarly, Uttar Pradesh's numbers go up from 80 to 120, whereas Tamil Nadu goes from 39, rounding it up to 20, to 59. The gap between Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh increases further to 61 seats from the current 41 seats. This is real numbers. It's real numbers that pass bills, not percentages. So again, they're conning us. Third point, which is my personal point, no political parties picked it up. No political party will have the guts to pick it up, and I'll tell you why. Barkha, what is the guarantee, and why can't they put in a provision that this 33% reservation will be not used for wives of netas, girlfriends of netas, bhabis of netas, and daughters of netas, but for the actual real karyakarta, real woman who's struggled from the ground and come up, and it won't be another family club. We've seen what's happened at the panchayat level, at the corporator level. Please come with me to Mumbai, Pune, Karnataka, all these corporators. Their husband wives are corporators. You have these pradhan patis roving around with their on their thars and in their boleros, putting pradhan pati out there. Why is this not going to become a family club? Put in a provision. This will not be for any neta related to family. For those who may now give me names, because I know that's the best defense BJP has, all the women whose names you may possibly think of or related are already in parliament without reservation. What I'm saying is, make this for women who don't come from political backgrounds. They will not do that. But most importantly, this does not say 50% reservation, as you write, a 50% increase in the bill, as you rightly said. It is said by Arjun Megwal on the floor of the House, which means frankly nothing. And even if it's true, southern states continue to suffer.
One quick follow-up, and then I'll open it up. Suppose the government were to move an amendment to their own draft and say that we will. Can you hear me, Tessie? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Tessie, can you hear me? Okay, I don't think I don't think Tehseen can hear me, but let's take his points back to Vinita and then to Aarti. You can hear me? You can hear me?
Now I can.
All right, I'll just follow up with my question. If this flat 50% increase in the seats of all states were to be worked into the text of the actual bill before it came up for voting tomorrow, if it were to be moved into the text of the bill, would you respond differently, or do you still believe that flat numbers is what matters and not this flat increase?
Flat numbers what matters, Barkha. It still doesn't make sense. Look, let me give you a practical example. The difference today between Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu is 80 minus 39. That's 41 seats. This difference will increase to 61 seats. So Uttar Pradesh will have 20 more MPs, 60 that they already have, over the MPs that they have over Tamil Nadu. Whereas Tamil Nadu has kept its population under control, and it's given more taxes to my country. So why is this being unfair to us? Number two, as you rightly said, and as your display shows, to pass a bill, you don't require percentage, you require actual numbers. Atalji's government fell down with one MP not coming to vote. One MP. It is numbers that count. It is heads that count in parliament. It is not percentages. If Uttar Pradesh is increasing on a base of 80-50%, and I am increasing on a base of 39-20, 50%, it's still unfair because Uttar Pradesh increases the gap even further. It doesn't make sense. Whereas I perform better, I followed the government directions better, and I'm giving you more money. So why are you being unfair to me? This is completely sleight of the hand. And again, this is not women's reservation. You want women's reservation, do it on 543. Do it right now on 543. You can do it in 10 seconds.
I actually agree on this 543 thing. I find it absolutely gratuitous that seats have to be added, but that is the reality of our politics, and I think men across party lines would perhaps not be willing to give up their share in politics. Vinita, quick response, and then Aarti and Sugata very quickly. One, it's not in the text of the bill. The verbal utterance from Mr. Meghwal doesn't make any sense unless you can include it in the draft or the text that is voted on Friday at 4 p.m. It is a constitutional amendment bill. It cannot be voted for or against simply by verbal speeches. Do respond to that particular point.
So I have the draft bill in front of me. So Article 82, the modification proposed is in the marginal heading for the words after each census, the words of constituency shall be substituted is what is written in the bill. So he has actually gone a step ahead and told what is going to be included instead of after each census. And there's also a provision in Article 82, the amendment states that the authority and in such manner that would be the delimitation commission. So they are reposing the entire trust on the delimitation commission.
But then how is it a flat 50%?
No.
If it's a flat 50%, what will the delimitation commission do?
No. So delimitation commission, the only job is not just to put a formula. They'll have many other things to do, like, which state goes to where, what geographical boundaries, all of that would be determined by the delimitation commission. But he's just in advance talked about the formula that's going to be adopted, which is going to be 50%. And this bill also talks about the 815, the number increased to 815. Yes. And 543, Barkha, is pegged to the 1971 census. Our population has grown tremendously since then. And our representation of MPs are very, it's abysmally low when compared to the population. So, on an average in UP, one MP represents about 3 million.
Okay. Tehseen, just one sentence. The others have been waiting patiently. Please, Yashwant is also with us now. Tehseen, one sentence. Yeah, go ahead.
Like I said, you're pregnant or not pregnant. We have to have faith in the delimitation commission that it will apply what Arjun Meghwal said in a constitutional amendment to amend the constitution the second time on floor of parliament. What if the delimitation commission decides otherwise? Put those words in the bill. Put it in the bill. They will not go beyond 50. It will be 50%. You don't want to put it because, like I said, it is sleight of hand. And again, I'm saying you can give 33% this second. You didn't have to wait. Just do it on 543. Keep doing the census. You haven't done the census. You didn't do the census in 2021. That time you didn't think of how the populations increase. Your duty about all United Nations signatories have done it in 2021, despite COVID. India didn't do it. Why? Why didn't you do it in 2021? Pakistan's done it.
Okay, Vinita and Tehseen, we've got to give others a chance. Let's bring in Aarti, Sugata and Yashwant. Aarti, I'll start with you. Do you believe, the government, we know the numbers. The NDA is short by, could we just mute Tehseen so that I can hear myself? Yeah, the NDA is short by 67 seats in the Lok Sabha, 67 votes, I beg your pardon, 67 votes in the Lok Sabha for it to go through. And it needs about 360. The NDA numbers at 293. That's the graphic on your screen. Now, of course, there's a catch. It has to be members present and voting. And maybe the NDA is counting on some abstentions. But the way the numbers are stacking up, Aarti, unless the opposition is more convinced than Tehseen is at this point, that this 50% flat addition, we're okay with it if you put it into the text, the bill stands to be defeated. How do you see it? I mean, how do you see the chances of this legislation going through?
So, but the two quick points I have to make. One is, I think we have to look at the timing of the session. Since women's reservation is only going to be implemented 3 years later, what was the hurry to call a session right now in the middle of a high voltage election campaign with 2 states yet to vote, right? I mean, obviously, I think the government is calculating that DMK and TMC MPs will find it difficult to leave the campaign and come to parliament to participate in this 3-day session, in which case the numbers become much more manageable for the government They don't need that 67 because basically what you need is more than half the members present and 2/3 of those present and voting. That's what you need. So if you reduce the opposition numbers, the government has a chance of pushing it through. It's a very devious plan, Barkha. Very devious to call a session in the middle of an assembly campaign. Secondly, I want to know why this is being linked to delimitation. Who decided? Is it the union government just decides delimitation on what basis it's going to be done? What is the percentage or anything? Does it bypass all conventions, all constitutional norms and takes an arbitrary decision? Listen, we are a federation. It's a federal structure. This is something that is going to affect every single state. Surely, there should have been consultation before the government just hastily called a session and introduced a bill which doesn't even mention the word 50%. I mean, it's absolutely pernicious, the whole thing. And how are you just bypassing all norms? I mean, this is supposed to be linked to census. Now you're saying it's not linked to census. It's going to be just 50%. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Who are you to take this decision on behalf of all the states of India? You're just the first among equals, right? Everybody is equal under our system. As the government, you're only the first among equals. That's all. So you have to give everybody their due right, their due say, and they have to be part of a larger consultative process before you ram and bulldoze something through Parliament.
Let me bring in Yashwant. Yashwant, before we lost you, I was asking you whether Meghwal's statement on the flat 50% increase in the seats of all Lok Sabha, in the seats of all states would change the debate. Vinita thinks it will. Tehseen said, and so did Aarti, that it's not in the bill. That particular clause is not in the bill. And how can we be looking at a constitutional amendment without the written text? Secondly, Tehseen at least did not agree that just proportionately increasing 50% to all states is actually enough to assuage the apprehension of the southern states. How do you respond to Meghwal's flat 50% model, which would take, for example, Bengal up to 63, Tamil Nadu up to 59, but UP up to 120 and Bihar up to what, 73? Sorry, not 73. Not 73, Bihar up to 60.
So first thing first, I totally agree with Aarti or Tehseen in that way that this is not something which you can carry forward with friction everywhere. This is something which should have united entire rank and file across opposition and people in the power at this point of time. And this is an historic thing which everybody should have been taken along. If the opposition is crying foul or having a doubt on the intent of those who are in power, then those who are in power cannot just say that opposition is wrong and they should not doubt our intent, because we have seen in the last 12 odd years that those who are in power have done many things which will put up a question mark on the intent. So let's not leave them that to get away with that. Having said that, I purely from the political understanding, Barkha, I had said that BJP would not like to do a political harakiri by making the South lose seats or being seen as a villain in the South. Particularly, it is the greenfield state area where they want to increase their political print right now. Yes, there would be questions. Why right now? Why right before Bengal and Tamil Nadu polls? This could have been easily done even after 4th of May when the results of these two states are over. So what is the rush and what is the hurry of doing it right here now? It could have waited for 3 more weeks if you have waited so long in that way. Those are legit questions that the government or the people in power will need to answer or have to answer or have to go through the scrutiny. It's not that they can just walk away from that. Having said that, they are also doing a pretty poor job of explaining how they are doing it. 50% increase and this thing. I mean, basically, Barkha, all said and done, in 2 lines, it's easier thing said. We are increasing 1/3 seats for the females, and we will distribute those female seats in the same proportion as the 543 seats right now among the states. Easy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what they have done. They have increased, they are saying they will increase 1/3 of the entire strength for females. That is addition of 272. And those 272 will be distributed in the same proportion of the state that we have right now. It is so easy to understand. There is no rocket science to it. But by making unnecessarily complicated and by not mentioning that into the bill, I think they are unnecessarily creating this debate, unnecessarily creating this doubt, these gray areas. And unfortunately, it has reached to a level where a cabinet minister, a parliamentary affairs minister, when the floor of the house is saying something and everybody in the opposition is saying, how can I believe your words because you have not put it in writing? Ideally, on the floor of the parliament, if the prime minister or the home minister or any minister says something, that word carries a gravitas, carries a gravity. But unfortunately, the things have reached to that kind of friction where even the words of those who are responsible are not being taken at this point of time in the right way. I think they should just cool it down, all of them. The government should just talk to the opposition leaders and just say that, okay, you know what, you can doubt our intent, but this is what it is. We are not taking away anything from the southern leaders. It should be made part of the written word, as Tahseen said. Give it in writing. What's the problem? What's the big deal? I mean, if it is given in writing, if Tahseen is not a crack man that he will have a fuss about it, right? Anybody who is against it, they are all wise people. They are all saying, give it in writing. Somehow there is a complete breakdown of trust right now between the opposition and the government. So if the opposition is insisting on it, give it in writing. There is no big deal.
Okay. So if it is in writing, does anything change? Sugata, sorry, you've been waiting very patiently. Let's bring you in.
Thank you, Barkha. See, I mean, I completely understand the concerns of my fellow panelists, but then, I personally believe that with this announcement that Arjun Meghwal made on the floor of the House today, that is the 50% flat distribution formula, I think it has taken away the plank from below the entire opposition. See, there is a political strategy involved, I feel. I may be wrong. The day Sonia Gandhi wrote that letter, that article in the Hindu, where she first spoke about delimitation getting linked with this, I think the government may have sort of corrected itself at that point. And this 50% formula thing probably was in the pipeline, but they allowed the opposition to create an apocalyptic kind of situation so that, it becomes a fait accompli when the government puts this thing across. So I think there is an element of political strategy which is not being recognized, and it's politics after all. So I do understand what Aarti said.
But Sugata, when you say that it's taken away the opposition, it was a follow-up to you only. When you say that it's taken away the opposition plank, how would you respond to Tahseen, Aarti, Yashwant's point that a constitutional amendment has to be in the bill? It can't be outside of the bill. Aarti, come to you just right after this. Yeah. Sugata? Yeah.
No. If a minister has made a statement on the floor of the House, I will think that it is something which is sacrosanct. It will finally get into the draft. I think Mrs. Hariharan, read out something from the revised thing, which clearly says that it is going to be part of the revised bill. So I am assuming that this government does not sort of back out of that or tries to, shortchange anybody on that particular promise that has been made. So that is one part of the thing. But I am really surprised by what Tahseen has been speaking today, because Tahseen has been making a federalist argument, which a state only like Tamil Nadu can make, not even any other state in the South. I come from the South. See, this is the exact, argument they were making about devolution of funds. They said we give 47 paise. We give 1 rupee, we get back 47 paise. Uttar Pradesh gives 1 rupee, but gets 1 rupee 47 paisa back. I feel that's a secessionist argument, because if you are, part of a union not all the states are equal, not all the GDPs are equal, not all the state GDPs are equal. You have to distribute funds, and that kind of discrepancy has existed from day one of this democracy. So this devolution of funds and delimitation, of course, is a bitter pill. Any party sort of will sort
Okay.
of face a problem because
Okay,
some boundaries will just vanish and whatever. So
So-
this
so- so you-
devolution argument, and the
Okay,
delimitation
but-
argument are not interchangeable, is what I feel.
But when you say that the words of Mr. Meghwal are sacrosanct because they're from the floor of the house, you do expect those words to be in the text of the bill before it comes up for voting at 4 p.m. on Friday.
Obviously,
Yes, okay.
Barkha.
All right,
If
Aarti,
they
then
don't do that, if they don't do
Okay.
that, then they are cheating this nation.
okay, Aarti, then Tehseen. Aarti. Yeah, Aarti.
See, this has nothing to do with what Sonia Gandhi wrote. It's got nothing to do with Sonia Gandhi's article. I am in possession of a WhatsApp message that was sent out to all leaders, in which, sent from the Union Home Ministry to all leaders, in which the 50% formula is mentioned. All right? So it's nothing new. It's got nothing to, it's not a strategy by the BJP. My point is, whether you make it 50%, 40%, 30%, 100%, I don't think the figure matters. My point is that you cannot take a major step like this, where you are increasing the number of seats in the House without having a full-scale discussion with all political parties. There has to be a consultative process, or you should follow the due process laid down in the Constitution, which is to link it to the census. You know, the government is doing neither. They've taken an arbitrary decision. This 50% was announced in that WhatsApp. Can you imagine, Barkha? They're circulating a WhatsApp message to all political
Okay.
leaders about, the section.
Okay.
I mean, this
Okay,
is
Shugata.
completely cavalier.
Sugata and then Tehseen. Sugata, one line briefly, then Tehseen, then Yashwant, and then
Barkha,
Vinita. Yeah.
The day the new parliament was inaugurated with accommodating so many seats, it was very clear that the number of seats had to go up. See, delimitation has been far overdue. We were on the 1971 census. Even if you apply the 2011 census, the southern states, if the 50% flat rate had not been introduced, would still lose. So I mean, do you mean to say that we should not see what is the size of the British Parliament? No, Britain is a small country, 630 seats or 620 seats. What is the size of Indian population? 1.4 billion, and we have just 545. So it's ridiculous. It was time that this had to be done, and that was the rationale behind constructing a new parliament, is what I think. And therefore, there is a problem here in this of a very different nature, which is I feel very unhappy about the proportion of seats remaining stagnant in the Rajya Sabha, because it overrides all kinds of amendments and everything. So that is a separate problem. But per se, 50% flat I think, takes away the sting from the opposition's criticism.
Okay, let's get in Tehseen and then Yashwant and then Vinita. Tehseen, go ahead. Tehseen? You're muted.
Am I audible now?
Mhm.
Okay. Let's just talk what the bill says and what Vinita argued, because that's the argument put to oppose me. The constitutional amendment, Barkha, Aarti will also agree with me, and Yashwant Bhai, sets to change articles 55, 81, 82. And what does it do? It's saying that let's get away with what is the 1971 census, which is what Vinita also spoke about. And that's the argument being made. That's the basis of what is happening. Fair enough. But the delimitation bill, clause 8 and 9, is mandating the opposite. It's saying the seats will be allotted as per 2011 census. So the government itself is being opposite. It's doing two opposite seats. That's completely opposite. Now, if you are allotting seats based on 2011 delimitation commission, however, you are saying that okay, let's remove get away with the freeze on 1971, but we will have fresh, but we will increase it to 850, and we will have a fresh delimitation. This doesn't make sense. What is this 50% proportionate? Now, the second part, that the argument that is being made. The government mandated, or government said, it is in national interest that my state of Maharashtra and other states keep their population under control, the whole country. We kept our population under control. We participated in India's progress. Don't keep calling us anti-India. We are more Indian than anybody. We kept our population, we progressed, and we accommodated everybody. Today, when it comes to our political power, you are taking it away with direct numbers. I'm again explaining it for the layman. A person has a salary of 1,000 rupees, his salary goes up 50%. It is 500 rupees. A person has a salary of 1 lakh rupees, his salary goes up 50%, it is 50,000 rupees. It is not the same cost to the company. Similarly, when you are increasing 80 to 50% on Uttar Pradesh versus 39 to 50% on Tamil Nadu, it is not the same because the gap further increases between Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. Why Tamil Nadu? Let me give you an example of my state of Maharashtra. 48 becomes 72. Today, the gap between Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh is 32 seats. That will further increase to 48 seats. Why should this gap increase? So Uttar Pradesh will have so many more MPs because Vinita is saying, hey, our population's gone up since 1970. Yes, but I contributed in keeping the population low. The other states increase the population and I'm being punished. And I contributed. It's unfair. And you calling me anti-Indian? You're saying I am
anti-India, nobody is calling anybody anti-India. Nobody is calling anybody anti-India. Yeah, Shugata, then Yashwant. Yeah.
Barkha, since he's responding to me, let me tell him, I said he's making a federalist argument and he shouldn't be making it as a Congress party person because Congress cannot now go to Uttar Pradesh until unless it has decided never to seek votes in Uttar Pradesh or Bihar or Chhattisgarh. They can't go there and abuse the people for increasing their population. So you're still part of the union. So you can't make an argument of a DMK party on population increase and devolution of funds and delimitation. And the function of the delimitation commission is to draw the actual constituencies. The formula has been set, the seats have been set. So the delimitation commission will draw the boundaries.
Okay, Tehseen, can I? Yes.
You've not answered the two separate clauses you've put in the two separate bills, which you've sought to join. But let me say, I'm not abusing my friends from Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. I am saying, if you want to increase the seats, and since you're continuously changing the constitution, you did it in 2023, you're doing it now in the middle of a session, why don't you put economy also as a criteria? Why don't you, if you have to change, why don't you talk to me? You refuse to talk to me. You bring in the bill secretly. Aarti says she gets what is to be done on WhatsApp. If I am a part of this country, which I am, you want me to be a part of it. You want to change the constitution that involves me, sit and talk to me. Have a conversation with me. Don't use these toxic arguments. I'm abusing Uttar Pradesh.
Let's get in, Yashwant. We are mixing up a bunch of things here and we need to unpack them and look at all of them separately. I think just 1 minute. I really want to go to Yashwant and Vinita because they've been just literally waiting. Yashwant, I'll start with you. You do understand numbers. So there are 2 or 3 different aspects. One is, where is the consultative process, which has been raised by Aarti and by Tehseen? Why was there's such a hurry? Why now when there's a West Bengal and Tamil Nadu election? Is the expectation that DMK and Bengal will not, TMC will not be present in full? Because remember, it is you need the numbers of those present and voting, 2/3 of those present and voting. So that's Aarti's point. Tehseen's point is verbal assurances mean nothing. Vinita and Shugata see this in another way. They say that Meghwal's utterances will be formalized in the text. Tehseen says that's not enough. It's not enough because in absolute numbers, the North has more seats. The BJP would argue that the proportional gap now with this flat 50% is the same as it is currently. How do you see it?
Well, the way I look at it, that, in a parliamentary democracy, the procedures should be followed properly in a true democratic spirit to take everybody along. All the doubts and points that Tehseen and all other friends on the opposition benches are asking to be cleared, this could have been easily done by briefing them, taking them along. There was no rocket science in doing that, to take everybody along. That's my first. Second point, obviously the timing of this thing right before the assembly elections of West Bengal and Tamil Nadu. If, DMK and TMC cannot agree to it, they cannot disagree to it either. They can do a walkout, bringing the total strength of the floor down, and which might make it easier for the BJP to pull out the required number on the floor. But it will, for all practical purposes, it will leave a bitter taste, the way it is being carried away. And, all these things that credit the others can take, and, it's more of a political campaign. It sounds like a political campaign. That's the point that Tehseen and everybody is trying to make. That it
are you still standing by your theory made on this show last night that you believe that there is a midterm poll in the offing?
I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that. I may be totally wrong, but I have my reasons to believe that. Otherwise, what is the rush? You see, West Bengal and Tamil Nadu are, any case, are not the kind of make or break states that this government is depending on. These are not the state anybody is expecting BJP to sweep or come into power. These are not the kind of states. So basically, why now? Why right now? That's a question. Second thing, the way it is being tried to implement, either it will get passed. I mean, if I mentioned this to you, if they do not freeze the proportion of the states, this will not get passed in any case. And why would BJP commit a political harakiri by looking like as if somebody who is doing great injustice to southern states? They will not do it. So there is the method to this madness, Barkha, and that is why I feel that there is something larger at play. Something larger is not about doing this and that. Something larger in a way. I seriously feel that after the delimitation and the female, you will be almost like doing a reboot button to a computer system where everything goes flat. All of a sudden, you are looking at the new constituency across India. All of a sudden, the anti-incumbency at the micro level gone. All of a sudden, you need 33% female candidates, for which the opposition parties, unfortunately, are not really ready.
But for all of this to happen, the bill has to pass. For all of this to happen, the bill has to pass.
Yeah,
so first the bill has to pass. First, the bill has to pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even Tehseen would agree with me that probably among all the opposition party, infrastructure-wise or organizationally speaking, Congress probably in the weakest spot right now, even to figure out 33% candidates across India. So people need time. And that's what the government doesn't want to give time. Government doesn't want to give them the time.
Okay, so Yashwant has been arguing since yesterday that he thinks this is part of a larger political move. Others are saying it could be a narrative sort of gear shift. We don't know. Vinita, before I play out the Prime Minister's comment and take last comments from all of you, do you want to address two central criticisms made by those who are opposing what's happening? One is, why the timing? Why now? This could have been done after the assembly elections were over. Two, why not have a round of meetings with all parties who have already unanimously supported women's reservation? All parties know delimitation is coming. They may not know it's coming now, but it's coming after 2026, right? So why now? How do you explain the timing, Vinita Hariharan?
Yeah, so why not now is what I would say. So in 2023, when the bill was announced and when it was, it was called a Jumla bill by the same opposition parties who cried foul, saying that, when is it's not going to see the light of the day. It's like linked to some delimitation which is going to be held after 2026, etc. The government has now catalyzed it, and why not now? There is no right moment. Every time is the right moment for such a historic bill to pass. Two
or three significant political parties are occupied elsewhere. Hence, why now?
No, so political parties, see, I also have been a part of political machineries, and way they operate is they have grassroots level workers. These are assembly elections going on, and there are state leaders, and there are the national leaders go once in a while to campaign in state elections when it happens. So all of the MPs in the Lok Sabha is not going to be campaigning on the ground. So that's not a right argument. That's a feeble argument, I would say. And, and on the other question of, consensus. So consensus is there. So this is the right way of doing a consensus as per the constitutional framework. We've held a special parliament session today and tomorrow to take consensus. That's the only way that you can take consensus in the constitutional framework. We cannot have discussions over cups of coffee and get consensus with opposition leaders. There is a framework. So that's the way it's being operated. So that's all I have to say. And why not now? When is the right moment to pass such a historic?
Okay, so this vote.
That is how it's always been done.
Sorry, Aarti, you want to react? Aarti? Go ahead, Aarti. Aarti? Okay, it's okay. We'll come to Aarti for last comments. And just,
go ahead. Have consensus over cups of coffee. Of course, that's how party meeting about. You gather at a table, you exchange views.
I've lost
Whole
Aarti.
move is anti-democratic, and it goes
Aarti,
against
please.
the constitution.
Okay. Aarti is saying
I'm
it's
very sorry, but there is something very, very fishy in this. I'm very intrigued by Yashwant's, theme theory. But I mean, this whole thing smells.
okay.
It really smells
Okay,
bad.
before the others respond, I do
And
want
it's
to
got nothing to do with Nari Shakti. I'm very sorry to say.
Okay, sorry, I'm jumping in there just because we have time only for quick last comments. But the Prime Minister, he made a long speech in Parliament. I want to just play out one excerpt where he said, he joked, but maybe he meant it also, that if this doesn't pass, there will definitely be political advantage to the BJP. That was said in a lighter vein. He said he wasn't doing this for credit and he was happy to come and thank every member of Parliament and give them the credit if that's what they wanted. Take a look.
देखिए, यहाँ कुछ लोगों को लगता है इसमें कहीं न कहीं मोदी का राजनीतिक स्वार्थ है। अरे भाई, इनको बोलने दीजिए, वहां पर बेचारे को टू पे ताला लगा हुआ है। बहुत बंगाल में कोई बोलने नहीं देता उसको। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, देखिए, इसका अगर विरोध करेंगे तो स्वाभाविक है कि राजनीतिक लाभ मुझे होगा, लेकिन साथ चलेंगे तो किसी को भी नहीं होगा, ये लिख के रखो। किसी को नहीं रहेगा, क्योंकि फिर अलग पहलू हो जाता है, फिर किसी को फायदा नहीं होगा। और इसलिए हमें क्रेडिट नहीं चाहिए।
हमें क्रेडिट नहीं चाहिए, अगर आप पास नहीं करेंगे तो लाभ हमें जरूर होगा, said in a half joke or maybe a full joke. Let's take last comments. Tehseen, I'll start with you. Tehseen?
When the constitutional amendment was originally done September 2023, if the BJP was serious, it could have just done it then. They have messed this up in the middle of two elections. The argument is, oh, your MPs will not campaign for state elections. I have never heard all of this. This is complicating something that was very simple. Women deserve an equal seat on the table. You could have just given it in September 2023. Now in the middle of everything, and I have no reason to believe what Yashwant said is not true, only to get advantage, only to ensure the opposition doesn't have candidates, you're indulging in this. That means the entire constitution of India is a joke for you. You will change the constitution to suit your political advantages. And I have one last point. For those who say that the word of a minister should be taken on face value, tomorrow a minister gets up and says, oh, no, we are removing XYZ from the constitution. But don't worry, your fundamental rights will not be taken away. We are removing Article 21, but no, your right to life and liberty won't be taken away. I'm giving you my guarantee on the floor of Parliament. Will you take it seriously? What is going on?
Okay, Tehseen, thank you. I know you have to hop off. We'll take quick last comments from everybody else. Sugata, please do respond, since that was in a way a reference to your argument that Mr. Meghwal's words were sacrosanct. Yeah.
No, if somebody is saying that I don't trust people talking in Parliament, then I don't have a response to such a comment. Number one. And number two, I think politics is part of everything. And if the government, any half-serious government, will not bring in a special session and bring in a bill without ensuring its numbers. And I believe, Barkha, this 50% flat concession has been given as a part of consensus building. See, you missed something else in the Prime Minister's speech today. he had a light comment about SP also, because Mulayam Singh Yadav was the one who used to always oppose the women's reservation bill. So we don't know how the SP is going to vote tomorrow if this is put on, if this comes up for vote tomorrow. And India alliance is at its weakest. I don't know if you're following what has happened in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The relationship between Stalin and Rahul Gandhi has fallen flat. There is absolutely no respect between each other.
So
that's
are
the
you
kind of situation
are
that
you
we
expecting a lack of unity in the opposition response on the vote tomorrow, Sukata?
Then
Is that what you're saying?
I feel Barkha, the numbers have been worked out, and therefore they have brought this in, and they kept the delimitation thing hanging until the 50% flat rate was accepted, and that is, I think, part of deal making, as they would say in Trumpian language. But the other larger point that I want to make is, Barkha, see, if all these confusions have to be solved, perhaps the government should consider bringing in the second States Reorganization Commission and break up Indian states. No state should be as big as Uttar Pradesh. No state should be as big as, say, West Bengal. See, you can make 4 states out of Uttar Pradesh. So their governance improves, their competitive economic performance increases, and parliamentary representation looks more even. So I think the bigger thing is that the government should come up with a second States Reorganization Commission. At least by 2040, we need to have 50 states. I think that is the way forward for all these kind of confusions that exist.
On that last point, I do agree. However, it will still not change the North-South debate, because even if UP is 4 states, if that's where
that has been always the Barkha,
Okay.
from ever since we both started journalism the same year, and ever since 1995 we started the same year, and ever since, this devolution argument and the South versus North argument is being put up. But it's only Tamil Nadu. The Dravidian argument is not Southern argument. The Dravidian argument is only the Tamil Nadu argument. The South,
Okay.
why is Revanth Reddy not speaking, Barkha? Why is Chandrababu Naidu? It's a rich state. Why is he got the entire opposition of that state, including YSR Reddy's party, which put him to jail, to pass a resolution and send it to Modi saying that we are supporting the entire thing? So you should read this politics very carefully, is what I'm trying to say.
I think one thing I've learned as a student of politics is that you can never predict the outcome of literally anything. But let me bring Aarti to respond to that, and then we'll close with Vinita and Yashwant. Aarti, I know that you have been very specific about your disagreement with how the government has handled this. But looking at it through the lens of hard politics, which is what Shugata just did, what do you expect to happen from now to 4 p.m. on Friday, which is tomorrow, basically?
But that's very difficult to say, because, I find in all the years that I have covered Parliament, strategies are often decided at the last minute on the floor of the House. They're not necessarily decided, in advance, So I think we have to see how the debate evolves. We have to see the kind of stand people take, and only then we will be able to get a sense of what is happening and how the vote is going to shape up. But yes, I think the government has taken, it's playing a gambit, and it's hoping that it's risky, but it's hoping that it can bulldoze its way through, like it has on so many other issues. This is not the first one. Article 370 and everything. I mean, there are so many issues on which they have bulldozed their way through by, bamboozling the opposition. And, this could be just one of those ways also. But I still feel that something as important as this should have had a wider consultation process, rather than, going about it in this unilateral manner by a government just because it has the power to do so.
Vinita, I'd like you to respond.
One more point, just a quick point, just a quick point. Nobody's even calculating the cost to the exchequer of increasing, the number of seats to 815. Yeah. I mean, as it is, we complain about what a drain Parliament is. This move is going to cost some 50,000 crores, to the exchequer on an annually. And, the number of sittings is going down. Somebody talked about the British Parliament. The British Parliament meets for 150 days in the year. We meet for at best 70 days in the year. 3/4 of these MPs are not even going to get a chance to speak in Parliament. I mean, honestly, what are we heading for? What kind of democracy are we passionate in shaping?
I will again say that my expectation as a woman was that reservation should have been done within the existing Lok Sabha. But I'm told every time I raise that this is a very idealistic expectation, and women have to take what the system is willing to make room for after 30 years of not making room for it. Vinita, let me give you the last response on that, and Yashwant can have the closing word. I do think Aarti raises an important point. I'm not sure the people of India in general, if you had a referendum, would want a bigger parliament, a bigger Lok Sabha. This is across party lines. There is a general sense that, it's taxpayers' money. They have entitlements that maybe taxpayer money doesn't want to pay for. Was this really necessary? Could you not have done it with smaller numbers? There have been alternative models, so on and so forth. Your response, please.
So, like I said, Barkha, this is 543 is way behind, in time, and it's in 1971 census. India's grown, massively after that. So we need more representation. We need more representatives for our population, growing population, burgeoning population. Actually, I would say. So let's not live in historic times and say let's freeze it to 543 all our lives. So I think this is a reality we have to live with. The expansion of parliament is a reality as the country progresses, as the country grows. We need to have a greater representation. And, coming to the point of Arjun Meghwal giving this formula, it's not out of his hat. It is following the constitutional provisions. There's Article 81(2), if you read that carefully, that actually talks about giving equal proportion to states as per their population. So this formula is the best win-win situation that we could have, following the constitutional frameworks, as well as catering to the needs of the opposition, that what the opposition raised. So you couldn't have a better win-win formula. And even if the opposition opposes even this, then we have no words to speak. And about parliament functioning.
Do you accept that this formula? Do you accept that this formula needs to specifically in this language go into the bill before it's voted on?
No, see, such explicit formulas will not get into bills. It will come in the subsequent delimitation commission proceedings. That's how it is. Bills cannot have formulas in it. But there is an Article 81(2) which actually kind of talks about this formula. So it indicates that this is the best formula that we can have. So I think this is the best win-win situation, following constitutional ethos, as well as catering to the demands of all sections, all stakeholders, the women, the representation, the opposition's demands, and everything else.
I want to close with Yashwant's tantalizing argument of a possible midterm poll. I want to return to it. I think you've got Aarti's attention, everybody's attention on this. Let's come back to the politics. No government, there I agree with Shugata. No government acts without political intent. No government, nor should it. Politics is at the heart, if not at the heart, at least at the quarter of everything that is done by a government. What is the politics at play here? When Modi jokes, when Prime Minister jokes that "Arey, ab nahi pass karenge to mujhe laabh zarur hoga," it's rhetorical flair, but maybe there's a message in there somewhere that you've picked up, because you do think that there's something else going on here.
Well, Barkha, first thing that almost all of us agree with almost all of the things that we have said so far in the right side of it. I don't really see much of a disagreement what we are saying, honestly speaking. And to gain Aarti's attention, I must say something even bigger and scandalous. That's a nice way of doing it. So one thing is sure, Prime Minister never jokes. All right, and what you see as a joke is a very serious thing, and he understands that if opposition doesn't pass this bill, he is going to go out to the masses saying he is the winner. If the bill is passed, he is the winner in that way, even though he says take the credit, everybody, but blah, 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 blah. But that's not going to happen. We all know that. If it doesn't pass, then also he is going to go to the masses and say, see, I am not anti-women. These people are anti-women. So that's the political side of it. Now, coming down to one thing, you can doubt the intent of people in power. But one thing, Barkha, I never doubt is their political acumen and their understanding and their preparation for electoral politics of India. And I totally agree with Sagat on that if they have brought this bill, they have done their calculation, they have done their maths way back, they have done their arithmetic, and they are coming with the full planning on how to go about it. either ways, this passes, this doesn't pass, either ways. My only thing is that when I look into it, and I also always try to look at it, ये politician कोई भी सीधा नहीं होता. ये public का भला ये सब कुछ जो है permanent कहने के लिए चीजें हैं, but अपना भला क्या है वो पहले देखो इनका कि what is it that they are gaining out of it, what is it the bigger picture out there. There is something else there, and that something points Aarti in the direction that this government is all of a sudden trying to reboot the button for precisely the same reason that 15 years of incumbency is too big a mark to negate, particularly in these distressing economic conditions. And the way the war is impacting, the real impact of the war hasn't started even showing up on the Indian economy yet. And this will go worse and worse. So maybe a political acumen would be, why not call it right now, reboot the button, redistribute the anger by calling up new seats when the entire anti-incumbency at the micro level goes for a toss, because no seat is the same, no MLA candidate is the same, and most importantly, the way their organization, that the RSS and the BJP, that they work at the micro level, probably they are most prepared with that 272 plus female candidates in this country at this point of time than anybody else, because the knee-jerk reaction, whenever I have the record, I have talked to all my opposition friends, they are largely relying on wives and daughters of the sitting MLAs and MPs.
Okay.
Their model is that. So I think they are probably heading for or planning for a midterm. When, I don't know, but there is something which is not 2 and 2 is never 4 in politics, and certainly not in the case of the BJP being in power.
Okay, we do have to close. Yashwant is holding on to his theory that there could be a midterm. Sugata, I saw your hand go up. Do you want a sentence there, Shugata? Can't hear you, Shugata.
Just a sentence. I mean, I agree with Yashwant ji, but then, this whole thing is going to be extremely disruptive to the dynastic, structures of politics. So that is, I think, very, very, very important to note. And if Modi is doing it, it is an atom bomb on the dynastic structure of Indian politics. You cannot, if it's 815 seats, if you start giving it to your sister and daughter and wife and somebody else, then I think it's obviously going to give you a defeat right in your face.
So an atom bomb on dynastic politics is a big statement there from Shugata. I think either way, what Yashwant said is correct, that whatever happens at 4 p.m. on Friday, which is in some hours from now, win or lose, there's politics at the heart of it. It isn't a policy debate alone. This isn't about a policy debate on women's quotas, separate from the politics, whether leading up to a midterm poll or whether leading up to 2029, I don't know. There are many theories on the table here. But we'll watch this space, as they say, and we'll know, we'll be the wiser for it at this time tomorrow. Thank you in the meantime to Shugata, to Aarti, to Vinita, to Yashwant, and earlier to Tehseen, and to our audience. Thank you, and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.